Happy 46th anniversary PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And you may be asking, 46? That's an odd milestone to celebrate, but think about it. 46 years in this day and age, is a magazine still surviving? It's odd to last 1 year anymore as a magazine. I mean, let's face it, print magazines are dead, sadly, and well, they're not completely dead. I mean, Barnes & Noble, they still have a huge selection, but let's just say they are not what they once were. Magazines, that is. PWI, though, it keeps going strong. It had some rough years there. I may or may not have been part of those rough years. Another story for another time that maybe we'll hint at. But here it is, number 1, September 1979, 46 years ago. Cover dated, anyway. This is the real edition. You collectors know out there was a special collector's replica edition. It actually says it, identifies it right down there. It's got slicker paper on the cover, and I believe maybe even inside too. It came poly-bagged with the 25th anniversary issue back in 2004, but this is the original. Prices, values, whatever you want to call it, have gone up and down over the years. I honestly haven't checked it recently. I remember a time they were going for $100. I really don't know now. You certainly can't get that signature right there anymore. The Dream himself. Mill, I never see advertised anymore for anything. He could be difficult. He's always great to me. I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot. And I also have the man himself, Bill Apter, signed on it. I mean, Bill is the master. Now, Stu Saks, who was the editor for a long time, will tell you they should actually be called the Weston Mags, because Stanley Weston was the founder. Most of us 80s kids, 90s kids, call them the Apter Mags. Whatever you want to call them, you can't deny Bill's influence. I mean, he was the one who went on TV. He was the public face of PWI. This is September 79. Behind me there is November of 79. They're the only two 79 cover dated issues, because at first it was every other month. On the back, we have a full color pinup, as it's touted on the cover, front cover, of Bob Backlund and Ricky Steamboat. And the inside is very similar to what you know from PWI, with the black and white. The Wrestling Inquirer, man, I remember getting so much info from the Wrestling Inquirer, and that was the thing. You know, I know a lot of you, even as kids, grew up on the dirt sheets, but a lot of us didn't. So we got our info from the Apter Mags, the Weston Mags, whatever you want to call them. Sure, they didn't completely break kayfabe, but often they did give you info that you wouldn't have had just from TV. I mean, I can remember in '92 being so excited because there was a brief blurb, possibly in the Wrestling Inquirer, maybe in Bill Apter's column, just talking about how Alpha was leading a new troop of Samoans into the WWF. Of course, that turned out to be the Head Shrinkers, and then Kokina, who was mentioned in the blurb, split off to become Yokozuna, as we all know. But that was just so exciting to hear that and just know all this insider info. It was, even though it was, like I said, largely kept kayfabe, it was still like, it was stuff you weren't seeing on TV, stuff you weren't hearing. I think even some of the stories, some of the blurbs were based upon real rumors. So you were getting news. Now, were the ratings on the up and up? Were the storylines always matching what was on TV? No. But they tried their best, and often they made boring stuff into kind of exciting stuff. You'd see something on TV and you'd be like, okay, and the Apter Mags would expand upon it, and that's great. We'll do a brief little look through, and we'll see there's actually the letters section is actually, which was Between Falls, has some letters from some stars who of the time who are actually reading this first issue. Yeah, they're reading it. It has a different back, though. It's actually this cover, probably like the printer proof or something, pasted to another Apter Mag, probably a copy of The Wrestler or Inside Wrestling. It's kind of cute, and the letters are actually from the stars themselves. I mean, you don't believe me? I mean, here's a guy named Dusty Rhodes from Tampa, Florida. Check out this new and spiffy mag. When the Dream gives you the approval on a project, you know it's deserving. I don't mince words. This is a piece of journalism. A fine piece of journalism, I should say. Congratulations. And then you have a guy named John Valiant from New York, New York. When are you dudes gonna give up and get a real job? Finished your newest rag and nearly wrecked everything I ever owned. What kind of lies are you printing? When are you lames gonna start on the right side of things? Promise me you won't clutter up my mailbox with your throwaway rag again. Parlez-vous scrambled eggs, Grandma. Qu'est-ce. All right, that was a terrible Johnny Valiant, but you get the gist of it. And I'm not even gonna do the Grand Wizard. McMahon. I'm not gonna do Ernie Roth. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just fun. It's, you know, it's old school fun. I mean, look, the hatred in my heart from Harley Race. I mean, where have you ever seen more hatred than in that face? Oh, I miss Harley. He was wonderful. But yeah, there's the cover picture again, which Bill Apter did indeed snap, as if you had any question. What else we got here? There's Bruno. Bruno wrote a letter too. I wasn't gonna do my Bruno impersonation, but everybody wrote a letter. It's PWI #1. And of course the classic ads. Now I don't think there's any, see, you don't need a gun, because you could order the ASP, which was like a retractable nightstick. It was in all these old magazines. The one thing I don't think they did in PWI, and let me just, allow me a second here. Yeah, they didn't do the rather adult ads that some of the other Apter mags did for, like, we'll call them companion dolls. Yeah, I'll have to show some of those sometime. The ads, not the dolls. I don't have the dolls. I really don't. But anyway, yeah, here's the first ratings page right there. You can see we had Bob Backlund and Harley Race and Nick Bockwinkel and Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, looking rather seductive, isn't he? He just peed his pants in that picture. But anyway, yeah, that's the first ratings page. I mean, this is your first edition of PWI right there. And like I mentioned, PWI is still on the newsstands. I just saw an issue in the Barnes & Noble. I guess it's the most recent one, with Willow Nightingale on the cover, who I do know who she is. I was at a small toy show that she appeared at with a friend, and my friend got her Micro Brawlers figure signed, I believe it was, and so I do know who she is. And I think, really, I've said this before, but really more so even now, you know, it used to be maybe that getting an action figure was the biggest honor, like as far as merchandise or notoriety, or like maybe the feeling you made it. But because wrestling magazines are so, any magazine really, but wrestling magazines are so, I mean, there's no other notable title other than PWI out there. Getting on the cover of a wrestling magazine should be bigger than a figure. Everybody gets a figure now, everyone. I mean, even if you're not in the big leagues, you could buy yourself a boutique figure. I mean, you know, you could buy yourself into one of those lines. A magazine cover, you know, that's special. That's unique. It's a throwback. You know, you can get all the press you want on the internet, but just like streaming shows and movies, that can be taken away at any time. It can disappear. Print is forever. You can sign print. You can autograph it. It's real. Now, I myself don't buy it every month. I'll occasionally pick up an issue when there's someone on the cover that I like. I try to still pick up the PWI 500. I haven't done it, I think, in a few years. My first issue was the PWI 500 1992. And Andre the Giant was number 497, I think. He was like 496 or 497. I just got a kick that Andre the Giant was still in it. And that was the first place. Here's some insider info. That was the first place that I learned that in 1992 he was still competing, because I still remember it says, miraculously he competed in Japan and Mexico in the last 6 months, and of course he passed away so soon after. But yeah, it was all kind of cool info. I also remember that General Adnan was listed near the very end also, and it said it's nighttime for the General, and that depressed me. It really did. But that first issue I ever had really inspired me. I remember taking it to school, showing kids, and there's a really funny story where there was a shot of a very, very, very young Chris Candido, like he's on steroids, and he's got someone in like an arm lock or a wrist lock, and you know, he had the blonde hair, and there was a kid who was looking at the magazine with me, and he wasn't a fan. I know he wasn't a fan, and he said, "Is that Hulk Hogan?" I'm like, I didn't know who it was. I didn't know who the hell Chris Candido was at the time. But yeah, another story from my childhood. But PWI is still out there. No, they don't have my favorite writers anymore. I mean, well, maybe they still do have Matt Brock. We all love Matt Brock and Liz Hunter. And my all-time favorite. But I'm sure it's still a worthy publication, and I recommend everyone going in out to buy an issue to support it in its 46th year. Now, you know, I love the first issue, and I love the second issue, and I love the first PWI 500 I had, which was 92, and I love so many of the crazy covers, but my favorite issue is none other than September of 2010. And it's quite the lineup on the cover. We had John Cena, we had Kenta Kobashi, we had Harley Race, and we had Ric Flair. And I actually have a copy signed by Harley Race, but this is just easier for me to pull out. And why is this my favorite issue? And why did I get Harley Race to sign a random small little picture on a cover like this? Why? Because it was my first issue. My debut. And if you don't know this story, you haven't known me long, because I never shut up about my brief but very, very fun run with PWI as a freelancer. Actually, I got to write for all three of the big titles, PWI, The Wrestler, and Inside Wrestling, and we will go over that in a very self-serving vlog in the near future. In the meantime, wrestlingmemorabilia.blogspot.com. You can go. I'm sure the stories are on there. I'm sure I wrote about them back then. Like I said, I like my self-serving stories. We'll do some vlogs about them. We'll show this more in depth. Yes, that's my collection there. There's PWI number 1. Look right there with Bobby Heenan. The Heenan is actually not my picture. There's a tidbit right there. I don't remember if the PWI number 1 is my picture, but the Heenan, I did not own that one at the time. I do now. But I remember they pulled that from the archives because I mentioned it in the magazine. But that's my favorite issue. PWI, happy birthday. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, as always. We'll see you at ringside.